So next we will have Tuuli Ojala from the Finnish Ministry for Transport and Communications. Warmly welcome, Tuuli Ojala.
Thank you, Hanna, and thanks for inviting me here. So, as said, my name is Tuuli. I come from the Climate and Environmental Unit of the Ministry of Transport and Communications. I was leading the work to prepare a national climate and environmental strategy for the ICT sector in Finland. I will tell you a bit more about the contents and especially where we are now with the implementation. And I work as a senior ministerial advisor and deal not only with the ICT issues but also with climate and environmental issues of transport. So those of you who might not be familiar with our strategy, the strategy work is based on a bit over a year of work by a broad-based working group. We have published two quite extensive reports that compile information about the environmental and climate impacts of the ICT. And then on the basis of those reports, we have prepared a strategy that the reports were also on a open circulation of comments, so they have been we have been able to take into account also comments from the wider public. And we organize yearly these kind of follow-up sessions of the strategy implementation. In the strategy, we looked both the positive impacts of the sector on the climate and environmental issues, the potential the sector has to reduce footprint, carbon footprint and material footprint of other sectors, and tell also digital solutions to promote environmental protection, nature conservation and so on. Then also we can't neglect also the footprint of the sector itself, so the energy consumption and raw materials usage of the ICT infrastructure and devices. And the strategy is divided in 6 themes, and I will just briefly go them through and then present you some implementing actions under each of these themes. So first of all, in the strategy we are looking at the climate and environmental friendliness of the infrastructure. And the aim is to promote development and use of energy efficient solutions and zero carbon electricity sources. Also looking at the environmental impacts in network construction. And what has happened since the publication of the strategy in 2021? One major reform has been that there was a tax reform in Finland in late 2021 that now enables those data center operators that utilize waste heat or are energy efficient can get much lower tax percentage, so make savings and this is an incentive to promote waste heat utilization. We know that many of our network operators, Finnish network operators, technology providers are developing technologies to save energy in mobile networks especially. And this is a very important theme in Finland because, as you know, probably we are a very mobile-intensive country, and in general, mobile networks consume more, or data transfer in mobile networks consumes more energy than in fixed networks. So it's very important that we improve the energy efficiency of these networks. Then there's also projects going on to study renewable energy use at base station sites, also in 6G networks. And then our Transport and Communications Agency made a pilot collection of data among the Finnish network operators, and it shows that the operators mostly purchase electricity coming from renewable sources. Well, the grid is anyway quite green in Finland, or carbon-free nowadays, but still by purchasing 100% carbon-free energy or electricity, you can affect your own or your company's footprint. And then to promote joint construction and network sharing, there is also policies and data sharing frameworks taking place under our agency, Traficom. Oh, I can use this. Then other issue that we wanted to tackle with the strategy is to strengthen attention to energy considerations in the design of software and services, and of course, so that the design of these energy efficient software and services would make sense. We should also take this into account when we procure services, so that energy efficiency of software and services would then give competitive advantage to those companies that deliver these solutions. And then a very important aspect is this handprint effect, that we must encourage a development of ICT solutions that deliver climate and environmental benefits. We have produced by government research funding an assessment of how does digitalization of public services actually affect the environmental footprint of those services, and this study utilized health sector as a case example. And there are very interesting results showing that yes, the positive impact can be actually very large, but of course it depends very much on what kind of solutions we use and what kind of actions we replace with the digital solution. But this project was very nice in a sense that it's also produced a toolkit how to estimate the impact of digitalization of a public service or service in any case. So this is a publicly available report which I recommend to read unless you have already done that. We know that there are various research projects and cooperation projects that promote greener software development and purchase of those or procurement of those services also by TIEKE, and I think we will hear more about those today. Then what is I hope not everlasting but ongoing discussion among the state ICT services, that we should also develop a sustainability and energy efficiency criteria for ICT services. And this is something that we want to get done in the near future. Then there's of course these programs under Business Finland that promote green and digital transformation that can be used to develop ICT solutions that deliver environmental and climate benefits. And a positive news is that there is increased funding for R&D in the current government's program. Then the material flows, which is a very big question in the ICT sector. Over 6% of EU's or in the EU, electronic and electric waste grows yearly by over 6%. So it's really a question of how do we get the valuable materials to be recycled, and how we reduce the overall amount of this waste and promote the sustainable use of primary resources. This is very much a thing that must be tackled on international level. There are a couple of important new pieces of legislation under negotiation, or the battery regulation is already ready and it will be in force soon. But then there's also these eco-design requirements that now are under negotiation, and these concern also electronic devices, so that they have to be more durable and recyclable by design and so on. And also this product passport is included in these pieces of legislation, so that we know from where the resources come from and so on. There's one national project I wanted to mention here. There's also a government research project going on to improve understanding on repairing services and what should be done to improve repairing of things instead of throwing them away. And then there are, of course, different campaigns by different organizations on recycling of devices. And national cooperation bodies that promote sustainable battery cluster and minerals sourcing. What we understood under the preparation of the strategy, that there are very much data gaps, and we have to fill them, both on material and energy use of the sector and the life cycle impacts. I mentioned already the pilot collection of data that Traficom performed in 2022. They also performed a new collection round in 2023 to understand how the energy use in our telecom networks is developing, and we will hear about the results hopefully a bit later this year. Then with regard to data centers, there is very important again a new piece of EU legislation. There is a new energy efficiency directive, and it will require to provide data on data center energy efficiency and the energy use. So the Ministry of Economy and Employment is currently preparing the national implementation, which is to start already next April. Then there are, of course, several other studies performed by different universities and consultants on the different environmental aspects of ICT, which really have many new studies have been done after the publication of the strategy. And at the EU level, there's also this kind of indicator development work going on, how to measure on common terms the impacts of the ICT. From this consumer awareness and competence, I didn't have any examples here. Of course, there have been actions towards this matter, how to use how to save energy in your everyday ICT use. And for instance, there was this campaign last year, national campaign on how to save electricity, and actually it was, I don't know if maybe the campaign wasn't the real reason, but the price of the electricity was the real reason, that Finns really were saving energy in many ways. And also consumer electronics have a role here, because some 7% of electricity usage of household come from like these leisure time services, watching videos and so on. So this is not insignificant. Then the last theme, but not least, this is actually very, very important, is the increasing understanding of the climate and environmental impacts of the emerging technologies, and also making ways to reduce the impacts. And this is something that the new technologies are not developed usually, I must say. the first consideration is not that how do we save energy, how do we make this energy efficient, and this is a discussion that I think we lack a bit, especially in when we now everybody talks about artificial intelligence, but hardly anybody talks about how to make, for instance, this kind of machine learning processes more energy efficient, and how to use wise way from the climate and environmental perspective these new technologies. So this is a challenge, and this is something that we can't solve alone in Finland. My examples here are just from the 6G development, not from AI. So there are some sustainability considerations now going on, both in the UN, United Nations International Telecommunications Union, and then also some domestic projects that try to tackle this issue of this new technology sustainability considerations before the technology is taken into use fully. My last slide is just a brief conclusion about where we are now. So this vision of the strategy emphasized the development and use of ecologically sound and climate-wise digital solutions, as well as improved understandings of the impacts of digitalization. I think we have demonstrated that the actions to improve understanding have proceeded well in Finland, and they are continuing. And awareness has increased, but of course always more can be done. This event is one example of trying to increase the awareness. Also, there are lots of actions going on to reduce the footprint of infra and services, but of course more action is needed, and this is an internationally very important question. And then about the handprint effect, that this can be significant. We have now new opportunities also in Finland funding-wise to increase the handprint effect of the sector, and this should be of course utilized as well as possible. Finland is also planning or has a new digital compass and is preparing an action plan. And we have to make sure that the environmental considerations are there as well. And my last point is that we will organize a follow-up forum of the strategy somewhere in the near future, and you are of course all invited. We will announce the date later. Thank you. I hope I didn't consume too much time.
No, we have plenty of time. Actually, we have time for questions. While you are still thinking of yours, I might ask one question, since you are, of course, well connected with the other players in other countries who are working on similar topics. So where would you say Finland is? Do we have a competitive advantage here, or is it, how are we keeping up to speed with other countries?
Well, with the preparation of the strategy, we were front runners, I must say, and still bigger countries are approaching us to ask how did you do that and what should we do. But I also think that we have to speed up a bit in order not just to repeat these same things in every conference in the coming years. So yes, I think we have to speed up, but we have been quite well so far.
Yeah. And do you feel that if you think about speeding up, is it about that we are kind of waiting for the regulation, or is there not enough demand, or where do you see is the biggest obstacle currently?
Well, I think it's the resources that are put in this topic. And it's very much also about human resources, and the understanding the importance of this issue.
So are there questions from the audience? Just feel free. Yes. Go ahead, Janne. Yes. So the question was that what are the next steps You gave some examples, but...
Yeah, well, now I mentioned that the action plan of the Digital Compass is under preparation, and we have been discussing with the group that was involved with the strategy preparation also, that because the strategy is very wide and it has a long list of different actions, so what would be the most important things we should bring forward now to the Digital Compass. And I think we have a general agreement that the development of these public procurement practices to take into account also the services footprint is important. And then of course this R&D development, which is now proceeding quite nicely because there's more money for that also, which is not the case in many other issues. And then also that we must continue with the data gathering, like Traficom is doing with the network things. So these are maybe the topics that I think are going forward sooner or later.
Yeah, great. I think I saw another hand. Yes, there, Antti.
So, how do you think this 2.5 years now that the strategy has been published has done? Has anything moved forward, and what have we learned in these 2.5 years moving forward?
Yeah, I think things have moved forward, at least knowledge-wise and awareness-wise. And also there have been some, like I mentioned, some important improvements in our domestic legislation that and also now there will be these several new EU regulations that will help us to reach our goals. But of course, yeah, well, one thing is that we can't do things alone. So I think, like Hanna said, that the data economy has been a bit like a Wild West. And I think it's also with regards to the, like, that not these energy efficiency and other issues are not, or material consumption are not taken seriously. And I think we thought very long that virtual world is kind of like fully virtual, but actually the infra is quite significant, especially with regard to the devices. So I think that's a really big challenge, and I don't have an answer how to solve it fully, but at least we are waking to that issue now.
More questions? If not, then I would like to do a bit of a poll that how many of you are from a company? Okay, majority. And public sector? Yes. And then universities or science, academia? Yes. Okay, good. Good to know. And what's this, have you been working with related to these green ICT or environmental topics already? Who has? Yes. Okay, that's good. Well, I hope you will learn something more. Before, I would like to thank again Tuuli